Why did the K Foundation burn £1 million? To get to the other side. And I think, why did we need to go through the Dark Ages to get to the other side? And don't worry if you weren't all there in Liverpool. We took you all with us, it's fine. We're all on the other side now. I shall read first from the Illuminatus trilogy, as seems fitting. Mumu was the first and original god, the god of primordial chaos. The 7 tablets of creation, the great Babylonian epic, is dated at about 2500 BC, when the chief deity is Marduk. The priests of Marduk monopolized the medium of exchange and were able to extract interest for lending it. They also monopolized the land and extracted tribute for renting it. It is the beginning of what we call civilization, which has always rested on rent and interest, the old Babylonian con. But when the first anarchist group arose, they called themselves the justified ancients of Mumu. Like Lao Tse and the Taoists in China, they wanted to get rid of usury and monopoly and all the other pig shit of civilization and go back to a natural way of life. So they took the supposedly dead god Mumu and claimed he was still alive and was actually stronger than all the other gods. They had a good argument. Look around, they said. What do you see most of? Chaos, see? And therefore the god of chaos is the strongest and still alive. Yeah. So Festival 23 is returning, yeah. And I think Festival 23, you know, still ranks as one of the greatest 3 days of my life. And I pulled the Cosmic Trigger and graduated from the Dark Ages. And it really was. But one of the things I want to talk to you about today is one of the things that was significant for me about Festival 23 is that it coincided with the birth of Horkos. And so January 23rd, 2016, I'm going to take you back to for a moment. This is the day of the world in the backwards tarot working of the major arcana of the Thoth. If you want to know more about that, ask me later. I'm not getting into that now. But essentially, a bunch of us had gathered and were starting to plan how we were going to fund another run of this play, Cosmic Trigger. Also that day, we went on a kind of merry outing to see Jimmy Corty's ADP Riot before it was even in a box. And then we went to the gates of Crossbones Graveyard, where we met up with John Crow, there to sign the book for the first time. Any of the original signers here? Yay! Shout out, yes, the original signers. Okay, so what the book is, here's the book. This is the book. And what happens is, a group of people say what it is they're going to do. And they're all working towards the same date, 6 months hence. But here's the kicker. If one single person in that group of people should fail to do what it is that they have written in the book by the date, then you burn the book. And no one involved can partake in a similar ritual for, it was decided after long discussion, 9 years. Right, so yeah, there we are. And incidentally, a lot of you don't know this, but I'd actually tried to do this once before. We're going back now to 2008, and I attempted to do another book. It was called Book of Intention at that time, and a group of people, we didn't know each other all that well. We signed the book, and then 3 days before the deadline of that very, very first book, I found my dad dead. And I hadn't done the thing that I was supposed to do. I was supposed to apply for a transpersonal psychology master's degree, and there in the midst of coroner's reports and funeral plans and shock and numbness, I was desperately applying for an MA in transpersonal psychology so that the book wouldn't burn. But we'd let an arsehole, excuse me, sorry children in present, we'd let that arsehole put in the book that he was going to meditate every day. I mean, do you know anyone who freaking meditates every day? How did that fall through? How did we let that happen? My God, it will never happen again, I can tell you that much. So it was doomed from the start, wasn't it? And so there I am, I find myself 2 days after my father's death, every other person having successfully done what they said they were going to do, barbecuing the book. I didn't even mention it to anyone when we came round to January 23rd, and there we go. But now we've found the others, you see. Now maybe we'd be all right. We could have another go at the book. So there we are at the gates of Crossbones Graveyard in Southwark, and the signing of the first book commences. And what I wrote was that I was going to write a play that was going to be read at Festival 23. Festival 23, as luck would have it, was exactly 6 months hence, and therefore was when the deadline fell for the first signers of this first round of the book. And this play, man, this play became like the play that refused to be written. It was like I couldn't find a single character, there was not a single plot point. It became this kind of awful meta play about the impossibility of writing an awful meta play. It was, oh God, it was days before Festival 23, and I rang up one of our most trusted magical consultants, Kat Vincent. I said, Kat, I'm desperate. I need to invoke a character. And he said, you got a specific character in mind, or do you just want to see who turns up? I said, see who turns up. He said, oh right, the dangerous way. All right then, what you've got to do is you've got to go meta. You're going to have to build an altar to the very concept of invocation itself, right? So you've got to gather up every single association you can possibly make with invocation, and once you feel sufficiently steeped, then you will stand and demand that the entity make itself known. So there I go, and I'm gathering up all these stuff, yeah, every association, and I think, oh, one day I go, oh yeah, sufficiently steeped, and so there I am, and I demand that the entity makes itself known, and nothing happens. But then about 2 days later, I'm actually in London Road at one of the charity bookshops there, and I come across a book called Horkos, The Oath in Greek Society. And it caught my eye. I thought, oath, yeah, that's why I'm in this blooming mess in the first place, with these blooming sacred oaths I insist on doing. So, and then a kind of cursory flick through the pages of this book, and it becomes apparent that Horkos is a god. He's a Greek god, and we know a thing or two about invoking those, don't we? And then I realised that Horkos, he's the oath keeper. He's the one who comes for you if you don't keep your oath. And get this, his punishment, 9 years in the underworld. Yes. Right. I thought, well, do you know what? I mean, at the very least, he's going to make a great villain for my play, said I, as the doors of Chapel Perilous swung shut behind me. Anyway, I get home and I start doing a bit of research, and there's not much about Horkos online anywhere, but I found one thing. Horkos is the son of Eris. Oh yes, we may have found the clue to the new phase of Discordianism there, seekers. So anyway, where am I? Yeah, here's a little bit from this weird play, a little Hawker speech, for reasons I'm sure not at all psychologically damaging. I can only hear his voice in my dad's. If you pledge to do something, then you gotta do it. And the wilder the better. Hit me with your craziest plans. It's time for the unearthing of the new capers. Collective lucid dreams, cosmic cut-ups, absurd creative constraints, art nobody wants. Total transformation of mind and all that resembles it. Blake said, if the fool would only persist in his folly, well, I am here, Horkos, for the folly persisters. Wow, yeah, that's Horkos, yeah, anyway. And as John Higgs says, well, we did pull the cosmic trigger. I said, I don't really know what that means. He said, I think pulling the cosmic trigger is about, what happens is you unleash a kind of tsunami of meaning. And, you know, you're the one who's got to sort of sort out what this is all about, because you're the one who pulled the cosmic trigger. So for Robert Anton Wilson, it was, you know, the Illuminati and beings from Sirius and the number 23 and the eye in the triangle and all that stuff. He said, but everyone gets their own tsunami of meaning when they pull the cosmic trigger, yeah. And anyway, there's hardly any depictions anywhere of Horkos available, but I always picture him with 2 enormous horns for some reason. That's how he always is in my head. And of course, he's got my dad's voice. And that play that I wrote for Festival 23, I now consider it a piece of immediatist art. This comes from Hakim Bey's immediatism here. It goes like this. Art has fallen silent. There are no more categories, much less maps of centre. and margin. We're all free of that shit, right? Wrong. Because one category survives: capital. Too late capitalism, the spectacle, the simulation, Babylon, whatever you want to call it. All art is labelled in relation to capital, and it is precisely and only in relation to this metaphysical commodity spectacle that outsider art can be seen as marginal. If this spectacle is considered a para-medium in all its sinuous complexity, then outsider art must be called immediate. It does not pass through the para-medium of the spectacle. It is meant only for the artist and the artist's immediate entourage. It participates in a gift economy of positive reciprocity. Only this non-category can approach an adequate understanding and defense of outsider art. I call this non-category immediatism. So, so immediatist was this play that I'd written for Festival 23 that it's deleted itself from all my devices, lost every hard copy of itself in my recent house move, and it's just sort of disappeared in this kind of puff of page not found, you know, it's gone, leaving behind only Horkus. Indeed, I've come to consider this play to serve one function alone. It was there simply to give birth to Horkus at Festival 23, to usher in a new age of Discordianism. And then I get a phone call from Bill Drummond. Will you come and help out with the Dark Ages? Yes, I said, of course, as the locks on Chapel Perilous clunk behind me. And so there we go. Yes, immediatism on the streets of Liverpool. It was, you know, an extraordinary thing. You'll have to hear the tales from any of the 400 who were here, who were all still trying to process what the hell just happened. But it was only as I was stood by the pyre with next to Bill Drummond, as he stood there with his flaming torch, dropping hot wax on my Badger Cull t-shirt, and with his enormous horn sticking out. And then I saw Jimmy with his enormous horn on the other side of the pyre, and I suddenly went, of course! Bill Drummond and Jimmy Corti are the earthly personification of Horkus. Together, separately, they're something completely different, but when they come together, they become the Oath Keeper, the Horned One. Indeed, have the justified ancients of Mumu always been the Horkosian wing of Discordianism. And they don't even need a sodding book, they just have to think it. Yeah, they're the real deal, those guys. So here we go. I now consider that Welcome to the Dark Ages was the great ushering in of the Horkosian era of Discordianism. Do what thou wilt, but actually do it, because Horkus is watching. Yeah. Anyway, for those of you who have not sufficiently evolved or devolved to not need a book, the next signing of this incredible book will be on January the 23rd. We are now in the third cycle of the Book of Horkus. We have now collectively produced 4 plays or musicals, 1 novel, 2 comics, 4 epic poems or memoirs, 7 new musical compositions, 4 cosmic sculptures, 2 cabaret performances, 6 pieces of academic and personal research, 2 pieces of 2-dimensional art, 1 piano concerto, 5 pieces on the Riviera, 4 published books, 1 redecorated flat, a pilgrimage to Santa Cruz, 1 screenplay and a woodland theatre. So, pretty well in the Book of Horkus. The next signing, ladies and gentlemen, will be January 23rd, and this, my tale, represents merely one mycelic thread of the things that have emerged from Festival 23 and that network of wonderism that thing created. So if you want to take your place as one of these threads, then book your tickets now to avoid disappointment. Sorry.